New this morning, chaos and confusion within the New Jersey U.S. Attorney's Office. The interim U.S. Attorney, Alina Habba, was removed on Tuesday after federal judges declined to extend her interim appointment. Then the U.S. Justice Department fired her successor. CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez is here with me in the Situation Room. Tell us more about the Justice Department's response.
Well, this is all because Alina Habba's interim appointment, which was for 120 days, was expiring this week, Wolf, and the judges there, under federal law, are required to either reappoint her or they can find someone else to serve in that position. In this case, they appointed Desiree Grace, who's the first assistant in the office. She is someone that Alina Habba actually elevated to that position. And once the judges did that, the Justice Department reacted very swiftly. Just within really minutes, the Attorney General Pam Bondi fired Grace, and she put out this statement. She said, politically minded judges refused to allow Alina Habba to continue in her position, replacing Alina with her assistant. The Department of Justice does not tolerate rogue judges, especially when they threaten the president's core Article 2 powers. Now, to be clear, this is not a usurpation of the president's Article 2 powers. He still has those powers. He just needs Congress to approve Alina Habba, which hasn't happened. The Senate, which Republicans control, has not approved Alina Habba or really any other U.S. attorney in the United States. And so that's what the problem is. For some reason, the Justice Department has decided to make this a clash with rogue judges, but really it's more about the administration not being able to work with congressional Republicans to get their picks approved by the Senate, which is what is constitutionally required.
Alina Habba was a former personal attorney for then candidate Trump, for a private citizen Trump, I should say.
Right, she was a spokesperson.
And the thought was she couldn't get confirmed by the Republican-led Senate?
They haven't been able to confirm her yet, and there is a very slow-growing process for all of these U.S. attorney picks that the president appointed, or nominated, rather.
All right, thanks very much, Evan Perez. Appreciate it very much.
Interim U.S. Attorney Alina Habba's future as New Jersey's top prosecutor in doubt after a panel of judges voted against keeping her in that role and then appointed one of her subordinates. But quickly after that happened, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi actually fired the replacement, saying in a statement on X, Justice Department, quote, does not tolerate rogue judges, especially when they threaten the president's core to powers. Alina Habba, you may recall, was previously one of President Trump's personal attorneys. You would often see her speaking for the president on TV. Her term ends on Friday. Joining me now, former federal prosecutor Elise Adamson. Okay, so let's just pull back and let's look at the facts of this first. Number one, there's this panel of judges, right? So this is what they're supposed to do. It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that it is not unprecedented that this would happen. It is rare that they would not recommend that she stay in that role. Not unprecedented. Is it, as it has been referred to by the Deputy AG, Todd Blanche, is this an activist move, in your view?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. First of all, you're absolutely right that while it's unusual, it's not unprecedented. And we can't forget that the Senate had already signaled, Senate Democrats, that Habba was not going to be confirmed. So leaving her to continue to lead this office when we knew essentially she was a lame duck, it wasn't going to happen, I think kind of undercuts this entire narrative that this is an activist panel. So look, let's just think about this. Desiree Grace was Habba's number 2. This is somebody hand-selected by Alina Habba. This is not some kind of liberal leftist, which is what Todd Blanche had said in his statement. She's also, reporting says, a registered Republican. This seems like a sensible choice to fill this vacancy that occurred because Habba was not going to be confirmed. So the judges were doing their job. This is within their core scope of their authority. There is precedent for this. And if the Department of Justice doesn't like it, then they can then persuade the president to name another replacement that is ultimately going to be confirmed after their nomination. That is how this should be handled, not firing this number 2, who essentially did nothing wrong.
Well, so to your point then, is that move by the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is that an activist move?
So also a good question. What I can say is legally, it seemed like this was an unlawful termination because while the Attorney General, by statute, does have the authority to appoint an interim U.S. attorney, they do not have the authority to fire one. Only the president does. And it's my understanding that it was actually Pam Bondi who fired Grace and not the president. So some may call that activist. I definitely say It is questionable, unlawful, and now, put it colloquially, it's a very messy situation in New Jersey. Liz Oyer is back with me now. Liz, what is your reaction to the fact that Bondi has fired this newly appointed replacement who I think was a career prosecutor, not a political appointee?
What's shocking about this is that it is totally lawless. There is a system in place for appointing U.S. attorneys, and what it says is that an interim U.S. attorney can be appointed for 120 days, and after that, it is up to the courts to decide who is to serve as the U.S. attorney. The courts decided that Alina Habba was not fit to serve in that role as a permanent replacement, and the Justice Department is now ignoring that decision by the courts, which is made according to the law. So the Justice Department is saying the president can do essentially whatever he wants in this realm without regard to laws. And this is really shocking because the Justice Department, as you know, is entrusted to uphold the laws of our country, which they have decided not to do here because they don't like the outcome.
Well, follow the thread. This is the head of the office, but there are dozens, if not more, prosecutors who are going to be in that office who are now watching this unfold.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine they are not considering how politics has impacted their own work now.
What is really concerning about this is, well, there's a couple of things. One is that Alina Habba is somebody who has no actual qualifications to serve as the U.S. attorney. She's never been a federal prosecutor. She has little or no federal court experience of any sort.
She has civil litigation experience.
Right, yeah. So she doesn't have the type of qualifications you'd expect. She's somebody who has made it clear that she is blindly loyal to Donald Trump. She served him in a personal capacity prior to his presidency, and that's also concerning for someone who is a U.S. attorney. And finally, what's just really so unusual here is that the U.S. attorney is a position that's very consequential because that person signs every single criminal charging document that is returned in that district. So if it is later determined, as it very well may be, that she is not legally in this position any longer of U.S. attorney, having her sign off on all these indictments gives every single criminal defendant in that district the opportunity to file a motion to dismiss their case because the charging document is not legally authorized, which is something that should be really concerning to the Department of Justice. You wouldn't want to take that risk of opening up years of litigation over the validity of charges that are brought throughout an entire district.
Can you imagine? These are felony offenses we're talking about.
That's
Very
exactly right.
Serious crimes that could be jeopardized. Liz Oyer, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Laura.